That works. I want to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Columbus on this January 24th, 2024. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to ask Debbie to bring forth our invocation today in her faith tradition.
Thank you, Tom. Let's pray. Father, as we just are thankful for this day, for this food, and for these good people, as we take a few minutes to push back the concerns and the responsibilities of the day, just to focus on fellowship and service, and to learn some new principles of leadership, we ask your blessing on each of us and on our time together. Bless us with lasting friendships. Bless our families with a commitment to love, and bless every heart here with a sense of gratitude and joyful hope. We thank you, Lord, for all of these blessings, and we'll respond in grateful praise. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Remember the can.
Okay, and Leanne's going to bring us the news for today, and she promises to have some good news.
Took some digging, but I did find some good news. So here are today's headlines for Wednesday, January 24th. The story from Washington. The U.S. military struck 3 facilities in Iraq and 2 anti-ship missiles in Yemen, operated by Iranian-backed militias that have continued to instigate attacks on U.S. personnel and ships in the region as the U.S. continues to try to keep the Israel-Hamas war from spilling over into a wider conflict. Both the strikes in Iraq and Yemen targeted sites that the U.S. has said are involved in the attacks against U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria and were threatening U.S. military and commercial vessels in the Red Sea. So, here is what we're celebrating. Straight out of Columbus, Georgia, a library director in the Fountain City achieved an exceptional goal this year. Alan Harkness, director of the Chattahoochee Valley Libraries, was named Library Director of the Year by Georgia Public Library Service. And
Alan, please stand up. Stand up, Alan.
Alan, you are definitely worth celebrating today. Alan has been a part of the library system since 2013. He has been the regional library system currently serves about 250,000 people with 7 facilities, 2 bookmobiles, and 2 automated 24-hour library kiosks. Harkness has worked with the Georgia Public Libraries for over 30 years, holding positions such as Regional Director of Piedmont Regional Library System to Assistant State Librarian for Library Development at Georgia Public Service Library. So that means you did not start there in 2013. That was a misquote. So under Harkness's leadership, his library system became the first in Georgia to eliminate fines for overdue materials. Thank you, Alan, for giving us something to celebrate today. So imagine it's the year 1848, and on this very day, a millwright discovers gold on the banks of Sutter Creek in California, forever changing the course of history in the American West. For our weather forecast today, it is wet with an expected high of 75, and the Dow Jones was also up today by 112 points at 12:15. So have a great day, and let's sprinkle some kindness wherever we go.
Okay, so at this time we're going to have Wilwatt presentations. I'm going to ask Ian and Mia to come forward.
President Tom, fellow Rotarians. Okay, it doesn't sound like it's on, but I'll take your word for it. I can yell anyway. Mia and I have the pleasure of presenting some awards for donations to the Georgia Rotary Student Program Foundation. I'd like to invite Vern Humphrey, Rick Alexander, and Ernie Smallman to join us for these presentations. The foundation now generates about $600,000 a year in income towards the $1.2 million annual budget of the Georgia Rotary Student Program. So you can see how important keeping the foundation robust and strong and growing is to enable us to provide this incredible opportunity to wonderful students like Mia. So firstly, we're going to award the Hugh Thomas Fellowships. So first of all, Rick, if you would like to come forward. And Mia will present you with your Hugh Thomas Fellowship. Hugh Thomas was the founder of the GRSP Foundation, and Ernie. Rick, Leanne's going to want to take happy photographs. And this represents, the Hugh Thomas Award represents contributions of $2,500 to the Georgia Rotary Student Program Foundation. And then Vern Humphrey is going to be presented with a Will Watt Fellowship, a certificate, and a pin representing a $1,000 donation to the foundation. And Will Watt, of course, was the founder of the Georgia Rotary Student Program in 1946. So for 77 years now, through this program, Georgia Rotarians have been promoting world peace through understanding, through working with amazing young people like Mia. Please, let's celebrate these donations to the foundation.
Okay, congratulations. I'm going to ask Lisa to come forward and introduce our guests and visitors today.
Good afternoon, everybody. On this gloomy Wednesday day, we have a full house. We have quite a few guests today, and when you're acknowledged, please stand so we can put a face with your name. Anthony Randall has several guests. Josh Powers, who's a VP of Vanguard. That's not his. Damian Mason, member of Vanguard. Rick Matson, executive with Vanguard. And then we have Miyoshi Blue, who is with Valley Healthcare. She's the Chief Resource Officer. So thank you for being here. Gloria Johnson has a guest, Alan Udi, architect with Heck Bardishaw. Okay. And we have Jeremy Delaney with Columbus Street Hockey, David Hartle with Columbus Street Hockey, and they're both guests of Jack Rosenhammer. Doug Jenkins, West Georgia Regional President, is a guest of Andy Redmond. Peyton Linder with Troy University is a guest of Juan Osorio. And Christina Vogler brought two guests, Lakshmi Karthik and Kara Maxwell, both with NAI Commercial Real Estate. So thank you all, and we hope you enjoy your visit with Rotary.
Okay, some announcements for today. There will be an in-person mix tomorrow at Sheikah Shaw's house from 5:30 to 7:30, and the office would like to at least have a pretty good head count. So if you're planning on attending, please stop by the back table before you leave. Our breakfast mix this week will be from 8 to 9, and we will hear from our new member, Rachel Morway. Well, at this time, I will ask Lori to come forth and introduce our presenter today, our fellow Rotarian.
Thank you, President Tom and fellow Rotarians. I am thrilled to be able to introduce our guest speaker today. And he will not be a stranger to you, but I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about Anthony. Dr. Anthony Randall is the founder and president of Vanguard 21. And Anthony has trained and coached over 15,000 professionals throughout his career in a variety of different industries, things like U.S. Army, Special Operations Units, Major League Baseball, Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies, healthcare, academia, law enforcement, and the ministry. Anthony is a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. He is an Army Ranger, a chaplain, and a retired lieutenant colonel. He holds not one, but 2 master's degrees in theology and ethics, and he earned his doctorate of ministry and leadership. In addition, he is credentialed as a professional certified coach with the International Coach Federation, and then he also trains other coaches to earn their credential. Now, on the personal side, you would not want to make Anthony mad or meet him in a dark alleyway because he is a 3rd-degree black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. He is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he is an avid CrossFit athlete, so I want to stay on Anthony's good side. In addition to his Rotary service, he is also involved in other things in our community, including the Boy Scouts and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Now, Anthony and his wife, Janine, have been married for 26 years, and they are the proud parents of 3 amazing children, Aria, William, and John. So it is my pleasure to welcome Anthony Randall.
Good afternoon, and it's great to be here with fellow Rotarians. Just a round of applause, please, if your mother ever gave you a great piece of advice. So my mother was 4'11", 105 pounds, first-generation Italian from South Boston. And she said, "You're not a Tony, you're an Anthony." And when I began speaking 15, 16 years ago to very esteemed audiences like you today, she got up in my face and she said, "You just remember one thing. All those mighty oak trees out there used to be a crazy little acorn nut just like you." And as we have some opportunity to share this afternoon together, I would encourage all of us to maybe be some crazy acorn nuts and take a look together, maybe at a different perspective of the world of professional coaching. And so that's where we're going to go today. Today we're going to talk about service above self, professional coaching as a second career. Now, again, a round of applause if any of you have ever had a coach positively impact your life. Good. And as a moment of reflection, how many of you ever had the opportunity for someone to call you coach? Hey, coach. Yeah. It's a pretty cool place to be. I started coaching probably 10 years ago when I was working in special operations and working with the high-performance leaders that I was working with. I was there in the form of a chaplain. They'd come to me at times for counseling, but what am I supposed to tell a special operator that they don't maybe already know? And so I began understanding the power of coaching, of helping them explore and empower them in different ways they may never have considered. And then in Major League Baseball, I mean, what am I supposed to tell a World Series champion hitting coach about hitting? My days as a 10th grader in high school before I got cut from the junior varsity team, probably not a whole lot to share with hitting. But how do I coach and empower that coach to become a better coach for other people? And so that's kind of what got me in the field of coaching, and I began to realize, like many of us when we go back to graduate school or postgraduate, or we go into a level of professional field, how many of you have ever gone into a place and after a very short period of time, you begin to start realizing how much you don't know? And so I said, there has to be more. There has to be a way that I can continue to pursue a growth mentality. I love pursuing things in life that require mastery, and mastery is not a destination. That the joy and the fulfillment in mastery is the practice of it, isn't it? And so that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to start with a quick exercise today. And for those of you at tables, there's a large sheet here for those of us with bifocals, and then there's some smaller cards that you can use. And if you'd like to join in this exercise, you're more than helpful. But one thing that I needed to learn how to do is redefine what is professional coaching, because there's a lot of folks out there in the world, 109,000 that are professional coaches, and there's a lot of folks on LinkedIn that call themselves coach. And there is a definitive difference. And so we began to look at that. Now, coaching is one of the helping professions. As a matter of fact, there's folks in here that probably fit in all of these 4 quadrants. I'm sure many of us have probably dabbled in all 4 quadrants throughout life. When I think about the top right quadrant, that's a coach calling in right now. They want me to ask them a powerful question. When I think about counseling, I think about people like Tom Waynick and the amazing counselors that we have in this room. How many of you know that we have amazing counselors in this room, right? Tom's been my counselor for years, one of his subordinate chaplains. Sometimes it wasn't voluntary counseling either. Sometimes it was, Anthony, come see me again. Counseling is a beautiful art because counseling is about taking your mastery and taking modalities and methods and theories. And people come to you and they say, I'm struggling with an issue. I'm wrestling with something. What modality, what theory, what process can you help me with? And so a counselor many times leads a client through that process where they can heal. And if you've ever been blessed by a counselor before, how about we give them a round of applause for those that are in here today as counselors? And then we have folks that are consultants, and I know we've got some phenomenal consultants in the room, and consulting is so much fun when your client listens to exactly everything you tell them to do, exactly the way you would do it. And then there's the times they don't. And how many of us have been in that position before? Because as consultants, we're subject matter experts. People hire us as a consultant to come in and fix problems. And so as you can see on that XY graph, many times it's more of maybe some discovery questions, but it is consultant-led, it is solution-driven, and that's what you're getting paid to do because they want you to fix those problems. And then when I think about Rotarians, I think about this room, I think about there's mentors in this room that have mentored me for years, like Rob Chapa. What a privileged space it is to be as a mentor, isn't it? Again, whether they're here or not, how many of you can give a round of applause to someone who has mentored you and shaped you in life? Yeah. We don't have to go very far to probably name one of the greatest mentors in this town, which is Mr. Turner. And how many of you were probably mentored personally by Mr. Turner? And so mentoring is a powerful, powerful place to be. It's more client-focused. It's more client-led, but they come to you with their questions, and they're seeking out you to help them walk through those processes and places in life. Mentoring is a very sacred space because mentoring is something that is, the best mentoring programs are the ones where mentees identify the mentor. Case in point, how many of you have been forced into a mentoring program and told, this person's going to mentor you? And your body language goes, not today. How many of you have been able to choose a mentor because you see character values in them? You see something in them that's powerful. That's the person that I want to shape me, and I will let them into that sacred space to change my life, right? And so maybe some of us delve into that mentor space quite a bit. I'm sure in this room, boy, all of us probably have an opportunity to mentor folks. That last quadrant there is coaching, professional coaching. And really, when you think about coaching, we have many people come through our professional coaching course, and they're like, what do you mean I can't tell the client what they should do? What do you mean I'm not in charge of the conversation? And when you talk to professional executive coaches like Dr. Lori here or Dr. Rick Mattson or I know Laura Cardin, who's a Rotarian, and her husband Colby, who's a professional coach, the most professional, effective coaches in the world are those who use, many times, silence to do the heaviest lifting of transforming someone's life. They allow the clients to lead the conversation. It's a client-led, client-focused, client-empowered environment where what the coach pursues mastery in is asking the right questions, cultivating a space of trust and safety, creating an atmosphere that embodies a coaching mindset and a growth mindset for both coach and client, a place where people can actively listen, where you can evoke awareness and where you can facilitate their growth. The best coaches in the world are the ones that allow the clients to lead and ask the powerful questions. So just a very quick exercise here for you. How many of you have seen a heat map of a strike zone, right? Getting ready for some Atlanta Braves baseball this spring? And have you ever seen the heat map of one of the hitters where they like to hit the baseball in the strike zone? If you just have a quick moment, I'll give you about 30 seconds. Go ahead and take out your pen and just think about the last maybe half dozen conversations maybe you've had in your community, in your church. Maybe you're in your workplace, in your profession. And when you think about who was driving the conversation, who was providing the questions or providing the answers, just put a little bubble. This is kind of like we're going back to 7th grade algebra. Some of us remember those days? I do because I have a 7th grader, and he's like, this is dumb. Why do I got to put dots on the thing? Right? That little XY graph. And go ahead and just highlight there your last 6 or 10 conversations maybe you've had in those spaces. And then what you can do is just a little connects. And who knew you were going to do arts and crafts today in Rotary, right? Then take it and connect the dots. And what you'll find is a little self-awareness, a little self-revelation of where you like to spend your time and your space, where your wheelhouse is, how you best put service above self and empower other people. So go ahead and just do that. There's some cards there on the table. I'll give you about 30 seconds. And then for that afternoon cup of coffee or that cup of tea, I would encourage you to just take some time this afternoon for you and personally reflect on how you approach the world as a Rotarian and how you approach the world as a leader by answering those questions on your own, and enjoy that self-discovery for yourself. So let's talk a little bit about coaching. When we think about coaching in this professional realm, first of all, just that short little exercise by just a raise of hands, how many of you have a new paradigm of what professional coaching is versus before? Raise of hands? Good. Yeah. How many of you guys have maybe a mental mind shift a little bit, or, whether you agree or disagree or go, I want to talk to that guy afterwards. Maybe a shift. Well, coaching in the world today, we have about 109,000 professional coaches. That means they're certified through some sort of organization. And it's well known in the coaching and leadership industry that the International Coaching Federation, the ICF, which Lori and myself and Rick and some other folks in here are certified in, is basically the gold standard for credentialing and vetting professional coaches. If you go through their coaching programs, it's literally going from a undergraduate to a graduate to a postgraduate level of coaching. And so about 109,000 in the world. You can see the majority are in North America. Fastest places in the world where coaching is growing is actually in the Middle East and Africa. So how awesome is it that we can see that around the world people are being empowered to solve their own problems versus someone telling them how to solve their problems? That's the power of coaching. We talk about coaching all the time. If you coach people's problems, they're going to keep bringing you more problems. Now, how many of you have been in a position of leadership before, and because you're in that role and that responsibility and that title on your door, you get a dopamine hit for solving people's problems for about 2 days. And then you're like, I really wish they could go out and solve their own problems, right? So coaching is about not coaching people's problems. It's about coaching people to resolve their own problems. It's about empowering them and invoking in them the opportunity to grow and change. So that's kind of the global perspective. What kind of areas are there in coaching? Well, a little over 60% of coaching is mostly what you'd expect. Leadership and executive coaching, business coaching. That's kind of the field that I spend most of my time in. I do some high performance coaching in professional and college sports as well, but mostly the business, leadership, and executive coaching. But how many of you have ever hired a life coach or a fitness coach? I know we've got a great fitness coach in here, right? I don't go to her CrossFit gym. I do it in my garage so I can modify it to old man standards. But there's many areas of coaching, right? And what you'll find in coaching is that many times, especially for an audience like us here today, when we see it as a second career, when we look back on all of the things that we've had the opportunity to grow in, all of our experiences, our degrees, our opportunities to lead, we say, you know what, I have something of value that I can give to someone else. So many people that get into the professional coaching realm actually bring in some other asset. Training, teaching, coach, leader development, consulting, whatever the case may be. I have a good friend of mine, Associate Tim Teriyaki, and he and I do a lot of leadership coaching and development together. We both run ICF coaching certification programs in schools. And he says all the time, he says, leadership development without coaching is just entertainment. And I see some heads nodding in there, right? I do keynote speaking. It's fun. But how many times have you hired a keynote speaker to come in and everybody's excited for about 2 weeks and then the same sales numbers come out the same quarter, right? You've got to bond these things together, and coaching is a language and coaching is a process that when organizations bring leader development or training into an organization with coaching, you begin to create cascading effects and unifying language, creating alignment and empowering people at multiple levels. And so a lot of coaches bring that prior experience. So whatever experience or background you may have in coaching. What does a coach look like? Besides this short little Italian kid and the wonderful Dr. Alt, right? Well, did you know that 74% of professional coaches are actually women? It's one of the fastest growing professions and industries today for women. And 24% are men. Now, the more you get into professional coaching, of course, the more you can get paid. And as you can see there, those who have greater experience typically have some sort of master's degree or graduate or postgraduate degree. But we all have to start as a little acorn somewhere, don't we? And so most coaching programs usually say, we're looking for at least a bachelor's degree. We're looking for at least 3 to 5 years of experience in your industry or your trade or your profession for you to come and participate in a program. And that would make sense, right? I mean, I've had 7 surgeries, shoulders, back, feet, knees, the whole bit. I know a lot about surgery. Do you want me to conduct your gallbladder surgery next week? No. I want that thoracic surgeon that came in here last week to do my, right? That guy was phenomenal. I want a professional to do that with that cool robot with the arms. Wasn't that great? That was phenomenal. I'm still talking about the guy last week. Forget what I said. So you can see that we've got these different metrics. Generationally, of course, we see that millennials and baby boomers are the majority of your coaches today, simply because that's kind of the age group that are looking for second careers and that have that experience. But we're starting to see Gen X. I'm Gen X. Josh always has to remind me what generation I am. I don't know. I'm not a boomer. All right. But now we're starting to see more millennials like Josh come into the field as well. And so when you think about it, you say, well, Anthony, so then who are my clients? If I got into professional coaching, how would I find clients? Well, how many of you applaud if you're part of some sort of alumni network, college network, social network? Just apply if you're part of some sort of a network. You know somebody else, right? So many times we find clients to those different associations. I have several clients who are service academy graduates at the Air Force or Navy or military academy. We have a like background. We trust each other. And so we create that. And you probably have the same thing in your realm as well, be it Auburn or Georgia or Roll Tide. All right. It's too early for that, isn't it? We'll wait a few more months. So who are your clients? Well, coaches work with a variety of folks. Sometimes we have the opportunity to coach an entire C-suite, and so we'll provide one-on-one coaching for every C-suite on a C-suite, and then we'll do team coaching for that C-suite collectively. Or maybe we work with their ELT and executive leadership team. Or maybe you come in and you do some sort of your expertise in training or consulting or whatever the case may be for a couple of days, and then you coach a team of directors or managers. How many of you have done consulting or worked with family businesses? Right? Yeah. And so most of us know that most family businesses don't get past the second generation. Boy, it's really cool when you see a third generation company pass off to the fourth generation, and you have hope and you can see that it's going to work. And what's really cool about that picture is that is going to be a 100% female-owned fourth-generation business in a very male-dominated industry. So it's very exciting to work with those two sisters there, right? Or maybe you do more keynotes and then you do coaching with, for example, CEOs and CFOs that are portcos for a cap equity firm. Your clients can come from wherever your realm of experience or connection is at. So many times your clients may very much look like you. So I wrap up today. I just want to lay out one question for you. It's a question that I get very, very often. As a matter of fact, I just took a call this morning before this from a lieutenant colonel in the Army who's about to retire, an intelligence officer who's ready to make that transition. And it's a question that every single person seems to ask. So, Anthony, is it worth it? One of my favorite words in our lexicon is the word worthwhile. Because it's actually two words. Worth is a function of value, and while is a function of time. And so, whenever someone asks me this question, is it worth it? I ask them to change the it. And I ask them, are people worth your time? Sometimes I get, oh, Anthony, I mean, seriously, is it worth it? Do you know my background? Do you know how much experience I have? Do you know how much coaching I've done in my life? Like, am I really going to learn anything from your course? Is it worth it? My answer typically to them is, no, it's probably not. Because simply by the mindset you just shared with me, people and their time probably aren't worth a whole lot to you. Sometimes we get folks that come in and say, Anthony, is it worth it? And what I hear behind that tone and behind that language is, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm experienced enough. I don't know if I'm the right kind of a person for that. And I say, well, if you reframe the question and said, are people worth your time? And you said, yes. I love watching people grow. I love to serve other people. I love to watch people win. One of my favorite jobs as a chaplain, whether it was in military or special operations or Major League Baseball, whatever it was, I love just sitting in the bleachers. I love sitting in the stands. I love sitting in the back room watching awesome people win and celebrate them for that. So if you're asking, is it worth it? I would encourage you to think of yourself more worthwhile, because I'm sure you have a lot of value that you could add to other people's lives. And yes, if people are worth it for you, go for it. Then the last one is, hey, Anthony, is it worth it? This is a conversation I just had a couple hours ago. Man, I am super busy. I have got a lot of tasks on my plate. There are a lot of things going on. I don't know if I can go this spring or go next year, but I've got this and that. And, financially, I mean, boy, it costs a lot to get into professional coaching. And I typically ask really busy people, when are you not busy? Because busy, successful people know when they prioritize something and tell their calendar what to do, they'll do it, right? So yeah, do you think it's worth it? Do you want to invest in yourself? And do you love investing in people? Then yes, it's worth it. Go for it, right? So, is it worth it? I would tell you 100% that professional coaching as a second career is worth it. 3 stories, and I will conclude with some questions. Last Friday night, I had the opportunity to go to the Army Marksmanship Unit Ball. We just had an AMU Soldier of the Week here with us a couple weeks ago. How many of you guys know that we have 2 gold medalists on that team? There are several teams in the AMU that are going to Paris this summer. I've already told the commander of the unit, who's a good friend of mine, if you need me to carry a suitcase, a backpack, a water bottle, please, by all means. And we're very blessed to have had a contract with them last year, and again, we're working with them this year. And it was Friday night, we went to the ball, and we had a couple of the team leaders come up and say, man, that training last year, our team's never been locked in as we've been this locked in for the Olympics. Our communication, our trust, the way we're empowering one another, this is going to be the best year for the Olympics that we've had in a long time. Man, that's worth it when you hear high performers get excited about getting better, right? Or we have an opportunity this year. Lauren Hope is a friend of mine and a guest today, hopefully a future Rotarian. She's the executive director for the Second Service Foundation. The Second Service Foundation helps hundreds of military veterans and military spouses a year become entrepreneurs. And we're trying to figure out how do we create a coaching environment to provide coaching, complimentary coaching at no cost to that veteran entrepreneur. How do we provide world-class coaching to them to make a successful transition from the military to the civilian world? If you want to learn more about Second Service Foundation, go talk to Lauren. It's an awesome nonprofit. Right? The last one, and I'll conclude with this, is when you bring all of these things on this quad chart together is during COVID, I had a client, they'd been a client for about a year and a half, and one of their executive directors passed away of COVID. He was an inspirational, incredibly transformational leader and tragically died of COVID. And the senior vice president called me up and said, would you do a memorial service for us? And he's a former military guy too, and I'm like, sure, but you guys are virtual, like you're not in person. He said, yeah, I want you to do a virtual memorial service for us. Can you do that? And I said, Rob, I have a signed leadership coaching and development contract with you with a Fortune 100 secular company. I don't know if I want to cross into that religious space, right? He goes, I don't care. He goes, and I've got your back. He goes, but our folks need a chaplain. And so we did that memorial service on Zoom. And over 250 people came. Is it worth it? Yeah. Later that year, I had the privilege of giving the national sales keynote for their company, and nobody came up to me and said, that was a great keynote. Came up and they said, thanks for making our time worthwhile and remembering our friend. Is coaching worth it as a second career? When you think about all of the assets and gifts and abilities and talents you've been given to serve and help other people, I can 100% tell you that it is. And not only is it, but it 110% aligns with who we are as Rotarians. Because professional coaching creates hope in the world. Professional coaching, it tells the truth and it helps clients pursue truth. Professional coaching, it builds goodwill and better friendships. Professional coaching, because of our ethics and our compliance, it's fair to everyone concerned. And professional coaching is beneficial, right? To client, to coach, and to those the client leads. It 110% aligns with who we are as Rotarians. So with that, I think we've got about 5 minutes to 1. Tom, we open for some questions. I would just ask you this: take 30 seconds to write a question down, and that many times is helpful in asking a good question. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
How long does it generally take? That's a great question, to become credentialed.
That's a fantastic question. So, to become an ICF ACC coach, you need to take a 61-hour course. After that 61-hour course, you spend about 3 to 4 months doing mentor coaching. Get 10 hours of mentor coaching from an ICF mentor coach to help you in the coaching process. You have to accrue 100 hours of client coaching, and you have to have one of those coaching sessions in audio and transcript formed forms, it gets sent to an ICF coaching school where an ICF assessor looks over 100 different markers. And you have to pass at above a 50% level to meet those markers. And then you have to take a 4-hour credentialing exam. And you become an ICF ACC coach. It typically takes people 12 to 18 months to earn their ICF ACC. The PCC level, which I'm at, you have 500 hours of coaching, over 220 hours of leadership coaching certifications. You have to submit 2 audio recordings and have to have a 75% pass rate of those assessing levels. And then you have to take another wonderful 4-hour credentialing exam. And then MCC coaches, which we have one of our team, Kim Zovak, she's phenomenal. Out of the 109,000 coaches in the world, there are less than 2,000 master credentialed coaches. She is like Jedi Yoda on steroids. And she's amazing. And you have to have 2,500 coaching hours. You have to have over, I think, 280 coaching certification hours. And then again, you have to submit multiple audio recordings and pass it at a very high level and take a credentialing exam. Answer your question? Thanks, Laurie. Oh, I have one up front. That's a great question. So the question was, how do I identify a good coach? How do I identify a good coach? Very simply, I will use a quick story for that. When I was a special operations chaplain working with some very elite, unique guys who do not let you into their world at any degree, I was sitting on the back porch one night with one of them, having a campfire. We do it on Friday nights on a regular basis. And we're drinking some fine bourbon and having a good cigar. So I'm a bourbon sipping chaplain, if you don't mind. And he's a man of very few words. And he looked at me, he goes, Anthony, he goes, you know why you're sitting on the back patio right now with me having a cigar and bourbon on a Friday night? I said, nope, I don't. I said, just hanging out. He said, because you wanted to be my friend before you ever tried to be my chaplain. One of the competencies of ICF coaching is to cultivate and create a place of trust and safety. And so I think how you identify a good coach is when they see that you're worthwhile and that you can add some incredible value to the world, and they build that sincere relationship and friendship with you first before they try to be your coach. Thank you for that question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. I learned a lot today, and to commemorate your sharing of the program today, we're going to place a children's book inscribed with your name in the Columbus Public Library. I'd also like to re-welcome all of our visiting Rotarians and guests. Thank you for coming today. And I think, Mia, would you give us an update of the week?
Hello? Okay. So, there's really nothing much. I've been doing homework. I had some few quizzes. My year resolution was doing exercise, and it started yesterday, and hopefully it's going. It's not only for yesterday.
Okay.
So, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mia. Okay, next week we'll have the STAR student program, our annual program. And there are directories still in the back if you haven't picked yours up. And I'm going to ask Debbie to come forward and lead us in the four-way test.
Please join me. In all that we think, say, and do, first, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And with that, we're adjourned.